Hello again, welcome to the fourth episode of this series where you'll be learning about functions, parameters, and arguments, what they are and why and how you use them. Now I'll be honest, I really don't use functions all that much by itself, but it's important to know how to use them and understand how they work for future concepts. If you think back to the videos on variables, you may recall that you reuse your code inside your script multiple times, and to make the tedious process easier, we use variables as substitutes for values. But with a variable, you can only store a single piece of data, which could be a word, a number, or an instance. However, it may seem there's no way to store blocks of code that will execute again. This is where functions come in. Functions are essentially a variable that stores a block of executable code. Let's say you wanted to check the weather every single day to decide what to wear or whether you should bring an umbrella or not. Of course, you could copy and paste the code, but our script will quickly become unnecessarily long, and if we wanted to change something in the logic, we would have to find every corresponding line and adjust it individually. Let's do an example of code where we would use a function. Say you are a 7-year-old student who had an upcoming math exam tomorrow, but had broken your calculator and were unaware of the existence of online calculators. Also, yes, I know that 7-year-olds don't use calculators, but I'm not creative enough to think of anything else. Now, since you're a 7-year-old, your exam only consists of pre-calculus, which you are extremely proficient at. However, while being able to calculate natural logarithms in your head, you are unexpectedly not proficient in addition and subtraction, which is why you need a calculator. So we'll start by writing a function like this. We start with our keyword, which is the word function, to tell the computer what we are making, then give our function a name. Let's call it calculate. Next to the name, we're going to add a pair of brackets that will store our parameters in. Parameters are basically the variables for functions. They are the placeholders for values that we determine when calling the function. If you don't understand what I mean, let's write our parameters and what I'm talking about will become soon apparent. In our case, we need 3 parameters. Mode for the mode we want to calculate in, so either addition, subtraction, multiplication, or division, and we'll only take 2 numbers as input for this calculator for now, so we'll label these numbers as the parameters as x and y. As we press enter, we get another end here as expected. Now before we do any calculations, let's make sure our function can be called, which we'll do so by printing something inside of it to indicate this. Now an uncalled function is as useless as the education system, so let's call it with the following syntax. We write the name of the function and put brackets next to it, which we'll use for the arguments of these parameters. Arguments are just the values for the parameters of our function that we determine every time we call the function. As we have 3 parameters, we will need 3 arguments, even though we are currently not using these parameters. We'll just make our mode add for now, and our x and y 5 and 8 respectively, which are completely random numbers. Let's run the script and check if this works, and here we'll see that the print statement within our function executes. Also, if we delete the line that calls the function, you can see that nothing is printed out as the function did not run. Let's now modify the function to serve the purpose we initially wanted it to serve. We'll need an if statement for the mode, as each mode includes a separate operation. Our first mode is add, which is what we use to start the if statement off with, and the rest will be part of the series of else if statements. Also, I forgot to explain this in the last video, but to check the equality of values, we'll use 2 equal signs instead of 1. The reason for this is that the script can't tell whether we want to assign a value or check a value. However, 1 equal sign is used to assign a value and 2 for checking if they are equal. We'll use print statements to display the result of the calculation. Also, for multiplication, we use the asterisk symbol and the slash for division like so. So now that we've written everything inside the function, let's see what happens if we try calling it by specifying the arguments to parameters and check if it calculates what we want it to. And yes, it does, and that's the concept of functions in a nutshell. So like I mentioned, we can call these functions as many times as we want with whatever arguments we want, as long as we've programmed it into the function, so feel free to have a play around with that. But anyway, that wraps up this video too, and if you haven't already done so, hit the big red button next to my channel name, which starts with the letters SUB, and if you're feeling super enough, share this video with your friends if you have any. Anyways, it's hibernation season again, so I'm gonna go get some rest. Good night.